Well, it had been quite a lot to digest recently. Another day had come to an end, and I realized the mail outside had been unchecked for days while I was in the hospital. Sometimes I feel a little obsessive with checking my mail, given so few things come in the post of late. Except for the occasional bill, maybe an online purchase delivery, and the never-ending flow of junk mail. So it was very surprising that I had not checked the mail for days, other than the hospitalization, of course. It's kind of weird. I suppose if I did not empty the mailbox often, the junk mail would pile up to the point that important things would not fit in the box anymore. I imagine the world would be better off, though, without all that junk mail. But perhaps I am wrong. Maybe that junk mail is subsidizing the valuable mail, somehow making it worthwhile, even if it typically is environmentally bad and thrown straight into the garbage. I often wonder if changing things simply displaces one problem for another. I always have random thoughts like that, I suppose. Excuses and musings aside, I went out and checked the mail. As predicted, lots of advertisements, value pack mailers, and a few political postcards. There was, though, a big black envelope, which I took to be just a large attention-getting scam envelope. It was huge. The black envelope had foiled yellow lettering indicating the context must be important. Reading highly important confidential last will and testament plastered across it in those emblazoned letters. The return address was the law firm Midnight and Associates, located in a town named Athlone in Ireland. The letter looked official and real. But if someone I knew died, I thought that I would have heard about it from someone. So despite its expensive letter, it was very likely just another scam. The envelope was really high quality. Very thick top-grade construction paper coated with waterproofing sheen, and that emblazing letter. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to open that envelope once inside the house instead of throwing it away. I mean, why throw something away that looks so interesting and cool? What might be inside? I slit the back envelope open with my dagger, which I use as a letter opener. It's a very small, thin, chainmail piercing, real dagger, but I loved it. It was cool. So what? I was cool. The dagger revealed a foil embossed thick paper letter inside, but it was closed also. This was with a wax seal. Geez, this was one serious letter. If it's a fraud or a scam, they spent a lot of money on it. It got my attention. I liked the cool presentation of the letter. So I whipped out my phone and I snapped a picture of the envelope and silver foil embossed on the lettering with my iPhone. Before carefully opening the seal with a hobby knife, because my dagger was just too big now for that, and I feared it would rip it open with force, as I might ordinarily do with a random envelope. I wanted not to damage it. I wanted to preserve its cool packaging. Be able to remember and look at the cool lettering and seal if possible. I thought I could share it and show it to other people. It was just that cool. It was a little weird, almost like opening a Christmas present, with wonder of what was gonna be inside. As I unsealed the letter, I swear the power in my house fluctuated. It pulsed on and off twice. And I heard and felt a subtle rumble like an earthquake in the ground. It was weird. I'm sure it was coincidental. But nonetheless, it was weird. The letter was awe-inspiring inside, I have to say. With embossed silver calligraphy on what felt like golden-hued magical scroll parchment. The raised silver ink seemed to have tiny micro-reflective glitter inside it that refracted light no matter what angle I looked at it. It was like every single letter was its own magical, prismatic silver foil rune, reflecting all sorts of colors off its shiny surface. If this was an ad or scam, it sure really cost a lot to produce. I really did believe it must be legit. What did the parchment say? With all the fanfare and production of the envelope and letter, it came down to this. I had an aunt that I had never knew existed who just died, and I was the beneficiary. It was unclear if there were other beneficiaries. It felt bad, given the letter was my never-known, now dead aunt's last will and testament, and her bequeathing me something. And yet I was really more focused on the letter than her dying. I mean, come on, that letter was awesome. The only data information that jumped out at me from the 2 pages beyond how magnificent the letter was, and its envelope, were within its opening paragraph. We regret to inform you that your Aunt Milmore has recently perished. Pursuant to her last will and testament, you have been designated as the primary beneficiary of the decedent's estate, contingent on your compliance with her directives, which will be disclosed at the time of reading. Please join us specifically on February 29th, 2020 at 11:10 p.m. for the formal reading of your Aunt Milmore's will. The reading was almost a month away. I wondered if that kind of delay was normal for a reading of a will. But what about her funeral? There was no mention of any kind of services, past or future. I doubted it would be a month away for her actual funeral. It all felt after the fact and a bit less concerned with her dying and more about her estate passing to beneficiaries. Maybe that's what they did as a law firm, and it just wasn't personal or important to them. Well, my aunt was dead, apparently, and her stuff was going to be given away. Simple as that. That is what her life culminated in. Someone she never met getting some of her stuff. Maybe a lot of people getting her stuff. Sad. It occurred to me Aunt Milmore's last will and testament reading was on a leap day. In a leap year. What were the odds of that, I pondered. And in her last will and testament, I mean, did she know she was going to die and wanted that time for her will? Who knows? Just kind of a weird thing, I thought. Objectively, it was beneficial to me to have some time before the reading, since the second page explained that I had to call the law firm handling the will and reading to secure travel to Ireland, where my aunt apparently lived and had died, and further stipulated that the proceedings must all be done in person in her estate. More weirdness. Moreover, my aunt mandated her will reading occur only, again, at her residence in Ireland, and only on that date and hour, and get this, it had to be specifically at a specific minute, no less, and second. So close to midnight, right before apparently a grandfather clock that she has preserved in her estate strikes midnight. I guess she was such a distant and removed relative that no one stayed in contact with her, and certainly never told me about her. Maybe it was because she was so insane no one told me about her. To me, it made some twisted logic because no one knew her that she would require anyone taking her possessions or money at least had to visit her house once. Since it was evening, I'd have to call tomorrow, but I could do some interweb research tonight, I decided. I was amazed how much turned up on good old Aunt Milmore in Ireland. It was crazy. She had been the centerpiece of an offbeat occult group that had ties throughout seemingly every myth throughout history. It was crazy. Druidic sacrifices, Satanism, vampirism, werewolf lycanthropy, Lazarus extended lives. Even claims that aliens may have bestowed telekinetic and telepathic superpowers akin to magic to Milmore herself and her followers. Alrighty then. Aunt Milmore was either one force to be reckoned with, or she was a total nutjob. Seeing as I have never believed in magic or the occult outside of my, belief in faith, I had to believe Milmore was one crazy lady. But crazy or not, it seems she had a lot of money and she wanted to give it to somebody. Maybe me. Ironic. I was just lamenting about my career turning south as I was approaching 50 years old and being unsure if I could ever truly retire without worrying about running out of money. And out of nowhere drops in my lap a potential for a lot of money. But still, I could not help but wonder if this was still some kind of ruse to get me out to Ireland with all the interweb information fabricated to authenticate the letter itself. Crazy things have happened. I had heard of elaborate rip-off schemes, but this would be far over the top for someone that does not have that much money. I didn't think I was worth that. I kept thinking this must be real. It occurred to me that perhaps I could glean some insight by searching for information about the letter or envelope itself on the internet. I searched simply for Big Black Envelope, Ireland Last Will and Testament, Aunt Milmore Scam, and more. Random things came about scams, including false will readings and promises of riches and rewards to get people to commit their time, their money, travel somewhere where they might actually get mugged or otherwise just spend money in a vacation area. All of these things were scams, but pitched as investment opportunities or inheritance that you need to come get. But there was nothing specifically about Ireland or an Aunt Milmore. Again, I thought, maybe this thing is real. Maybe it really is legitimate. It was late, and I wanted to sleep, so I could wake early and call the law firm that allegedly sent the letter. The internet indicated to me that Ireland was 20 hours ahead of my time zone in Washington state, so 8 a.m. would be 4 p.m. in Ireland. I used to take advantage of time zones to work with video game developers all over the world, being able to effectively work with companies 24/7 with different organization spreads throughout the globe. The productivity was limited only by my own mortal ability to keep going. My colleagues often joked that I was relentless like a Terminator and tapped my near insane motivation to keep moving and working with groups around the clock, year round, year in, year out. They sometimes quit bluntly, I was not mortal. It occurred to me in a weird way, their offices opened their doors at 8 a.m. there in Ireland, which would mean for me that I could call them promptly in the morning. I loved coincidences, and when time zones work in my favor, what a wonderful opportunity and idea. I decided to just stay up actually a little longer and call them at midnight. That would be 8 a.m. their time, and I wouldn't lose very much sleep after all by getting up so terribly early to make a call. Besides, I didn't think I would be able to sleep with all this excitement, thinking of some mystical envelope and letter and an Aunt Milmore, some inheritance. I sat back in bed, leaning against the backboard, watching a silly show on YouTube about cats suffering some uncommon, severe dander. Apparently, these so-called dandelions, I did like that cute name, try to clean themselves through rolling in dirt and weeds, ostensibly to dry out their greasy fur and brush off their pelt. Unfortunately, the dandelions, while mostly successful at removing the oils, tended to collect more debris than they actually removed. Well, it was an interesting jaunt on random cat clips, and I suddenly felt overwhelmingly tired. The haze of fatigue and shadowy thoughts drifted in slowly as I fell to sleep, but it was not restful. I did not want to be asleep. I never just fall asleep. It was as if I could see myself sleeping from above, like watching a television show. I was slumped down from my previously erect backboard leaning position, sound asleep. Wind whistled around the house exterior, boards creaked seemingly unnaturally, faint thumps and whirring sounds echoed through the downstairs and throughout the house. My mind slowly awakened, hearing and concluding It must be the little robot vacuum turned on in the wee hours, and it's just running cleaning downstairs. And then I heard what I swear was a whispering, raspy voice. I was still half asleep, I think. Fate written, torment yours, danger ahead, hear me. It said these exact words over and over. I didn't understand. Fate written, torment yours, danger ahead, hear me. I woke up completely. I was shaking my head, rubbing my eyes to dispel this horrible, I guess, dream. Somewhere I was between awake and asleep, and that voice, I guess, just sort of nightmarish hit me. I was at least thankfully awake, and I could get up and just maybe get ready to make my phone call. The whispering voice was gone, thankfully. I got myself up, went to the washroom, finished my business in our vanity sink. Oh crap. I heard that voice again and I was awake. Fate written, torment yours, danger ahead, hear me. Why no heed? Was I still asleep, I wondered? Is this like a dream in a dream you'd watch in television shows? I was in the bathroom, I splashed water all over my face, like you see in television shows. I didn't hear the voice any further. It didn't come back, it seemed like. So I went back to bed thinking that was pretty freaky. I'll just sit here and wait a while until I make my phone call. Fate written, torment yours, danger ahead, hear me, why no heed? Rasped with an aggressive voice in my ears. I must have fallen asleep and that haunting voice came back. It's all I could think would make sense. I was awake after all, wasn't I? How can you know when you are seeing reality or not, I wondered. When you're asleep or not. I felt like I was going crazy with these dreams feeling so real. How could I wake up and get out of this? Or could my poor sleep all this time actually be affecting my cognizance, my very ability to think? Am I going crazy? I wondered. I mean, you don't hear voices. In what felt like an out-of-body experience where I floated outside my house looking down into the darkness around the side of my house, I imagined just after 11 p.m., I saw the scumbag Aaron Graywall skulking near the gas main. I must be asleep. That's not real. He looked to be fiddling with the gas line like he was trying to weaken it, if not outright create a leak. He jimmied the garage lock and appeared to sneak in to cut brake lines on my car. Before leaving the garage, I saw him put some kind of cellophane-wrapped package on the inside of my furnace. My floating ephemeral body suddenly dissipated into the air, into nothing. And my sight that was above and seeing all this faded to nothing. I had only could presume this was asleep and I was aware of being asleep. The entire thing had to be a nightmare.